Pokrovsk. Exclusive footage of real battles. You have to see this. Crimea is under attack again. The oil depot is on fire. The commotion in Volgograd is under the gun of the Lukoil oil refinery. One of the largest fires is burning in Russia. Set off impressive fireworks for the occupiers, hitting a Shahed drone storage base. The Kremlin is rattling its nuclear saber again. The US should prepare.
We must always keep our nuclear potential fully ready and prepared at all times to inflict truly unacceptable and devastating damage on the enemy under any and all possible circumstances.
Moscow is preparing a nuclear terrorist attack at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
Millions of people will be forced to abandon their homes. Cities and fields will turn into dead zones.
The Russian army is recruiting cannon fodder. Even Native Americans are fighting, but not for long.
My friend, they officially signed a contract, and after that?
Friends, you are on the YouTube channel Ukraine Today. Don't forget to subscribe. This is the topic of the day. So Pokrovsk, there are important results there. Vladimir Zelensky announced this, of course, referring to the destruction of the occupiers in the city. We will show you footage of the battles in just a minute. There were also explosions in Crimea after a drone flew over an oil depot in Simferopol caught fire. And Muscovites need to prepare to survive without heat and electricity. The energy infrastructure of the Russian capital is at risk of being destroyed. All the details will follow after an exclusive discussion in the studio.
Ukrainian drones are striking the Russian energy system more frequently and on a larger scale. On the night of October 5th, Ukrainian UAVs attacked energy infrastructure in the Vladimir and Oryol regions. In Vladimir, the strike hit a 750-kilowatt substation in the suburbs. Local residents claimed that the city was attacked by missiles, not UAVs. Killed. In Oryol, explosions thundered in the area of the local CHP plant, the largest source of electricity and heat in the region. The attack was most likely a missile strike, since the video contains neither the sounds of air defense nor the buzzing of drones.
That was a big bang.
This is already the second attack on the Oryol CHP plant in the past week. On October 31st, it was hit by Neptune cruise missiles. At that time, the city was left without power. Also, on the last day of October, the Vladimir CHP plant was on fire.
Moreover, this substation supplies electricity to the central region, including Moscow, Vladimir, Nizhny Novgorod, and parts of Ivanovo regions. In general, it also participates in transmitting power from the Kalinin nuclear power plant to the Kostroma, GRES, and others. Major energy sources.
The stable operation of the Vladimir substation is critically important for the reliability of the Russian energy system's balance. It is of particular importance. Energy from the Kalinin nuclear power plant is supplied through it. This makes the substation one of the key facilities for the Moscow energy hub. In Ukraine, they want to cause a blackout in the Whitestone, Moscow, by striking substations around Moscow.
In recent weeks, attacks on important energy nodes have been recorded. Arzamovskaya 500 kilovolts on October 14th, Balashovskaya 500 kilovolts on October 16th through 25th, Vladimirskaya 750 kilovolts on October 17th through 31st and November 5th, Vishkema 500 kilovolts on October 18th, Novobryanskaya 750 kilovolts on October 29th, Lipetskaya 500 kilovolts on November 2nd, Frolovskaya 500 kilovolts on November 3rd. According to industry analysts, the goal of the strikes is to deprive Moscow of the ability to receive maneuverable electricity from the Volga hydroelectric power stations.
Before these strikes on substations, the head of Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Brody, warned that Muscovites should start preparing for blackouts.
A blackout is nothing to be afraid of. The SBS birds, together with other components of Ukraine's deep strike capabilities, promise you a rapid, albeit forced, adaptation. But you'll manage. Matches, flashlights, candles. By the way, take the opportunity to use your favorite battery-powered garlands too. We won't be informing you about every 750 kilowatts, 500 kilowatts, and so on. That gets battered by the birds. Just go by the principle: light, warmth, boom, darkness, cold. And your open source intelligence in public channels is still working flawlessly as long as there's internet. The strikes were announced and the strikes happened. And the enemy, even knowing which infrastructure would be targeted, was unable to organize an effective defense. There were announcements that blackouts were coming, and only after that did the drones take off.
If such strikes continue in the short term, Moscow will be left without electricity. Plus, there are strikes on gas storage facilities and gas distribution stations. Then the capital of the Russian Federation will be left not only without electricity, but also without heat.
Oh, the sooner the better. When could this happen? Let's start this conversation with military analyst Ivan Stupak. He is joining our broadcast. Ivan, hello, I'm very glad to see you.
Hello, likewise. Thank you for the invitation.
We're happy to have you. I think you're also looking forward to a blackout in Moscow, like all of us, right? Rubbing your hands in anticipation. It's definitely a hot topic, but why not start with it? So what do we see? Every night, Ukraine attacks facilities, energy infrastructure on enemy territory. If you look at the map of where we're hitting, it gives the impression that we're forming an energy ring around the capital of the Russian Federation. What do you think? Do we really have the capability to plunge the capital of the Russian Federation into darkness, considering that we've only just started and winter hasn't even arrived yet? And our Ukrainian missiles are probably on the way.
So let's see, what can be said about these strikes? 100%, and as you showed the power of unmanned systems and Mr. Madyar's statement, there is absolutely no chaos there. There is no chaos there. All the strikes are not random, they are well thought out, and I am more than sure that all of this is happening in coordination with our energy specialists, with people who understand the power systems of both Ukraine and the Russian Federation, who know what's what. Every strike, once again, is carefully calculated because our resources are limited. I want your audience to understand, we don't have, say, hundreds of extra drones to test out this or that theory. Here we rely only on knowledge, understanding, and assumptions about what this could ultimately lead to, but again, based on expertise. You are absolutely right in saying that the main goal is to destabilize. We are well aware that reaching Moscow right now is impossible. Our military acknowledges this as well. Just a couple of weeks ago, we saw the map of air defense systems around Moscow. Indeed, they are there. In 3 or 4 rows, there really are a huge number of them. Pantsirs, Tors, Buks, you name it, they're all there. Reaching the 5 thermal power plants that supply Moscow's energy needs is practically impossible. But those hydroelectric stations on the Volga, the main ones in the central part of the Russian Federation in central Russia, those can be reached. And today, the Kostroma hydroelectric station was hit. That's 2% of all the electric energy in the entire Russian Federation. 2%. That's a very large figure. But again, as you rightly said, we're only just getting started. No one is saying that the process is already finished. The process is in full swing.
And we can see probably the Russians didn't just leak those maps for no reason. Wouldn't you agree? The ones showing how their air defense is layered around Moscow. And we can see how exposed other regions of the Russian Federation are. How much harder or easier is it to operate there, given that almost all the air defense is concentrated around Moscow and Putin's toilet in Valdai?
Well, it's clear why Moscow, why St. Petersburg, why Valdai, why the cruiser Aurora, why the mausoleum. We all understand perfectly well, and we can clearly see that as soon as the clouds start gathering over Moscow. Well, gathering is putting it strongly, but as more and more Ukrainian drones enter Russian territory, more and more air defense systems are, of course, deployed around Moscow first and foremost at the expense of ordinary regions, other regions, and even some military sites. The calculation is probably like this. They'll mobilize reservists, send them out as mobile fire groups, and in this way, cheap, simple, powerful, and always reliable, they'll try to shoot down everything flying over the rest of the regions of the Russian Federation. Let's put it this way, we shouldn't underestimate the enemy, We understand perfectly well that there are smart, capable people there too, and they're trying to anticipate Ukrainian strikes to foresee them where possible. That's why they understand perfectly well that attacks beyond the Urals are unlikely, because it's not possible to reach there yet. The main target is the European part of the Russian Federation, and most likely not Moscow or St. Petersburg, but everything else. So this at least allows them to somehow balance and use the resources they have, I mean air defense resources.
The key word is for now, Ivan, for now. Let them not get too comfortable.
Let it be so.
And of course, just look at how times are changing. For centuries, the Russian Federation has prided itself on this empire, on its territories. From Moscow to the outskirts, well, here you go, from Moscow to the outskirts. Now try to cover your Moscow and all the outskirts. It is physically impossible to do this. Let's move on to a painful topic for Ukraine. Pokrovsk. Look, on one side is our general staff. Remains fairly optimistic as of today, stating the following: intensive search and strike operations to counter Russian infiltration are ongoing. On the other hand, the German press, here's what Bild writes: we have lost 80% of the city. The publication reports a critical situation in Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad. And from a third perspective, today Zelensky says that Ukrainian units have achieved the necessary results in the Pokrovsk area. What kind of results do you think are being referred to? Is it even possible to talk about them as of today? Is it really possible for us to have such cautious optimism already? Or are there no miracles, and should we prepare for the possibility that we won't be able to hold Pokrovsk?
Despite all my optimism here, unfortunately, I have to be a pessimist. And again, we're looking at the situation realistically. We're looking at the deep state map. This is the only verified and reliable source of information for the civilian population. Although, again, everything there is updated with a delay. This is done intentionally, but today's update did not show any no major gains for Ukraine, unfortunately. But all of this is predictable because around the city of Pokrovsk, by various estimates, almost 100,000 Russian servicemen have been gathered. 100,000, which is about the same as the pre-war population of this entire agglomeration. So, we can imagine the scale, the proportion, the advantage the Russian army has. Again, for 13 months, I never tire of reminding people, our military has held this city against all odds. 13 months. But yes, unfortunately, in recent weeks we've seen the pressure intensify. This is real, it's not just words. You can actually see their pincers closing in on Pokrovsk. There's not yet a physical encirclement like in the classic sense where the pincers have fully closed. No, that's not the case yet. But the bottleneck for entering and exiting the city is now so narrow that it's hard to say there's no encirclement at all. In reality, it already exists. Breaking through there is now practically impossible. Our military, these are Special Operations Forces, paratroopers, the main intelligence directorate, the Special Operations Center of the SBU, they have been operating over the past week from the center. The SBU Special Operations began working even earlier to prevent these pincers from closing, and this is the main task, to buy time for our defenders so they can leave the city, evacuate people, evacuate the wounded, and, if possible, evacuate civilians if any are still left. They are ready to leave as well, not hiding in basements. And of course, if possible, to take out equipment and gear, or in the best case scenario, destroy it so that the Russian Federation cannot use it. Of course, we wouldn't want to, but nevertheless, what does the president say and what does the general staff say? They managed to raise the Ukrainian flag on the administration building in the city of Pokrovsk, but we perfectly understand that this is all temporary, because right now there are 100,000 Russians surrounding the city. That is an incredible force. What our military is doing is beyond comprehension, beyond any understanding at all. I want your audience to believe this. This is not just a pretty phrase. It's not pathos. It's really the way it is. Despite all the pressure, our military guys and girls are doing simply incredible things, forcing the Russian army to lose what matters most. Not even equipment, not people. They don't care about people at all. They're losing time, and by doing so, they're giving us the most precious thing. That is time. Time for the Ukrainian defense industry, time for the European defense industry.
And for the Russians, what is the lag in this time? What are they afraid of? Is it the cold or maybe some kind of bad weather? What conditions are needed for an offensive?
The economy.
The economy. I'm starting with...
Once again, I want to take a look at them in advance and everything. Has it collapsed? No, it hasn't collapsed. It's still quite large and rather strong. but there are deficits, and here there's a budget deficit that already exists. This inspires attempts to freeze prices in stores, to introduce, let's say, a cycle of price regulation. This shows that, oh, things are not all that great with the economy of the Russian Federation. Plus, there are already fuel shortages being observed in many regions. All of this, once again, is an attempt to buy time on Ukraine's part, hoping that the Russian Federation's economy will start to collapse much faster. Well,
we probably won't be able to drag things out for that long because they still have some reserves left. Ivan, we understand that the most important thing for us is for our people to come back alive. And if that means we have to leave Pokrovsk, then that's how it should be. But the Russians are already making a big deal out of it, saying that after that they'll advance and that this will give them some kind of military advantage on the battlefield. Is that really the case? And we also have people who are starting to shout, well, that's it. Now the front will definitely collapse. But excuse me, if it takes them hundreds of thousands of lives to capture a single city over the course of more than a year, do they really have the strength and capability to then speed up and boldly advance further across the territory?
Well, let's put it this way. What will the Russian Federation do first if it captures the city of Pokrovsk? Unfortunately, we have to admit that they can practically do this. 80% of the city is already occupied. It's clear they'll hang their tricolor flag on the ruins of whatever is left of the administration building, if it even survives at all. Maybe it won't. They'll film it all with a drone, no need to go anywhere in person, and it'll all be beautifully shot. They'll shout, celebrate, hug each other for having taken the city. Second, they'll immediately rename the city in the Soviet style, some kind of medieval necrophilia, trying to bring back something that already died and call it Krasnoarmeysk, as it used to be. And that's basically it. The city's prospects, its life, end there. No one will rebuild it because there's no money in the Russian budget for that. If you don't believe me, just look at the cities of Bakhmut, Ugledar, Avdiivka. The ruins are the same as they were 2 years ago. Nothing has changed. Of course, Russian propaganda will present this as something on the scale of Berlin in 1945, like, hooray, we took it. But in reality, it's not even a regional center, just one of the cities in the Donetsk agglomeration, nothing more, nothing less. I'll even use this term myself. The more reasonable Russian war correspondents are holding their heads and asking, so what? So what if we took this city? What did we get out of it? How many people did we lose? How much equipment did we lose? How much did we sacrifice from our own economy? For what? This city generates nothing. It doesn't give the Russian Federation access to, I don't know, the Atlantic Ocean or to any mineral resources. There aren't 500 billion tons of gold, no dams, no uranium, nothing. All that's there are millions of cubic meters of reinforced concrete ruins mixed with unexploded ordnance. That's all Russia gets.
Ivan, by focusing so much on Pokrovsk, are the Russians risking losing other territories of theirs because the temporarily occupied, the already captured territories, Ukraine is still working in parallel in those directions as well? For now, it's mostly drone strikes and possibly something else. And I'm talking about two very powerful strikes that the armed forces of Ukraine have carried out in just the last few days. That's Crimea. An oil depot in Vadiska came under attack there. And in Simferopol, on two fuel and lubricants bases, storage tanks were hit. And of course, there was a huge, major strike on Donetsk. A Russian drone base was destroyed there. Pretty impressive, right? I guess intelligence did a great job here too, because the results are fantastic. There were about 1,000 drones there. And thousands of pieces of military equipment, a major hit in occupied Donetsk. And is this somehow connected to the fact that Britain has promised us and maybe has already delivered new batches of Storm Shadow missiles out of turn?
Well, look, here we're talking about Donetsk airport. When the first information appeared that they were placing launchers there for Shahed-type drones, it was a big surprise. Why would they do that? It's so close to the front line, literally 40 or 50 kilometers away. What's the point? What does it achieve? It doesn't really give them anything. And today, Ukraine's drone forces reported that a tremendous amount of work was done. Everything was scouted, identified, and a major fire strike was delivered, as they say. But again, since we're talking about the airport and drone forces, most likely the strike was carried out using drones. Let me correct you a bit. We're talking about 1,000 destroyed Shaheds that were already prepared for launch and 1,500 warheads to equip those drones. So for your audience to understand, what does 1,000 drones mean? It might not be clear. Is that a lot or a little? In 2025, over the course of 10 months, the Russian Federation, on average, launched about 4,400 drones per month over Ukrainian territory. This gives you an idea of the scale of these numbers, and it's clear what kind of damage that can cause. So basically, a quarter, 25% of the monthly quota, was destroyed and will not hit Ukrainian infrastructure, civilian targets, or people. In other words, these assets have been eliminated.
It could actually be more, because what's even more important is that not only were the drones destroyed, but also the launchers or their components. So if they need to be repaired, will there even be anything to bring in new ones? That also takes time. So the actual number could be even higher.
Let's go vertically. Yes, let's go. This is it. Let's go. Time spirals upward, winding up. Yes, you're right, because of the launchers. And even more so, on top of that, there are the people who know, who understand, who are skilled. If they were destroyed, then it seems to me that this means much more than just the destruction of metal and this plastic or whatever it's made of, carbon fiber maybe, because a knowledgeable person can organize the process. If there is no person, there is no process. And
this is the same time you were talking about, the time that the Russian Federation is already so desperately lacking. At last, we finally lived to see this moment. Military analyst Ivan Stupak joined our broadcast today. Ivan, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your analysis. Until next time.
goodbye. All the best.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.